This is the Skeptical Student Show, created as a part of Podcast Lab by India Film Project in association with Anchor by Spotify.
You can always listen to the episode on Fast Forward and follow the podcast to never miss new episodes. And while you're at it, don't forget to rate the podcast a 5-star.
Hey everyone, I am Gavish and I welcome you back to the Skeptical Student Show after a hiatus. We are halfway through the season and into the first episode for 2022. Happy New Year everyone! How special is that? And to make it all the more special, today we will try a different lens and shift perspectives. All this time, most of my guests have been students. But today, we are going to change that by tapping upon the third stakeholder of education and talking to a teacher about the topic Teachers' Turmoil in Today's Time. Allow me to introduce you to Madam Richa Sharma, who has been my former economics teacher in 11th standard and a very cool one, I must add. She literally laid the foundations of eco in my mind. She is a teacher, in true sense, as she believes in walking hand in hand with her students in not only academics but also beyond it. Welcome, Richa ma'am. It is so good to be able to talk to you after so long.
Thank you, Gavish, for such a nice and warm welcome. First of all, wish you a very, very, very happy new year. God bless you in all your endeavors. It's definitely very nice and welcoming talking to you. I'm really feeling very blessed right now that I'm talking to you after a long time.
The feeling is mutual. First of all, kudos to you for making it to the show after so many attempts. And I was also curious to know, what are you doing these days?
I agree. After so many attempts, yeah. You know what I mean to say. Okay, so when I talk about what I'm doing nowadays is, I have been married and I am enjoying my married life. I have joined school here as well and I'm taking classes similarly. And I'm recollecting all those moments which I've spent with you and your classmates. And life is going very nice so far.
So happy to hear that. And I assure you, we also miss you with all our hearts.
Blast from the Past segment.
Let us begin this episode by talking about your experience before and after having set foot into the profession of teaching. What all have you seen around and what have you yourself faced?
If I talk about before and after getting into this profession, there wasn't such kind of line. But since my childhood, I was always into this teaching mode, teaching my younger sister, then teaching my friends, then was taking tuitions to earn my pocket money. So this love of teaching has been gradually evolved. Also because my mother was a teacher. And when I was kid, I always, play such games like teacher khelte hain, I'll check your copies, I'll scold you and that, blah, blah, blah. But eventually when I get into this profession, teaching is not only about, scolding children, authoritative power, administrative skills ko zyada exhibit karna. It was more of connecting one soul to the another soul. See, telling you frankly, when I was in school, I was a scholar child and all of my teachers wanted that I should go for administrative services like IAS or something like that, or I could pursue CA and everything. But I was always having this love for teaching and the teachers in that community were saying, no, teaching is a very bad experience. You should not come into this field. This is not a very graceful profession. So I always had this doubt why being a teacher, that person is not, motivating the another person that yes, definitely you can come into this industry. So that was one question which was always there in my mind. And that question forced me to get into this profession. Now, after getting into this profession, I realized that yes, this particular profession is lacking a lot of many things. Primarily, it's the financial thing because the teachers in India are very underrated, very much less compensated, and second, it's a very noble profession. You have all studied such great essays on, teacher and everything. but nobility does not exist here. So my agenda getting into this profession is to bring back this true essence of this teaching, and let everybody be aware that getting just good 90% plus marks is not always about landing into this doctor, engineer, lawyer profession. There is also one very great one, which is teaching. Then teaching was not always about earning money and money and money. It was like you feel very much loved when when you make somebody understand some topic, and those twinkling eyes give you like, wow, it was so nice, or it was so easy, ma'am. So those words are very motivating. Like at the end of the day, those numbers in your bank account does. I agree with this point, but not being comparable to the remembrance of those people, or we can say children, who throughout their lives say that particular teacher was my favorite, or that particular teacher inspired me in this particular way, or that teacher held me in the lowest segment of my life. So those connections are very rarely found in any other profession, and teaching is really very wonderful profession. I'm enjoying it.
Wow. Thank you for being so candid, and your thoughts are very inspiring, I must say. You spoke about taking classes, and since COVID is a part of shaping our realities these days, how about you tell us a little about your experience with online teaching?
Online teaching. Very scary word for most of the teachers, because this industry has never been equipped with such modernity. So if I define my experience of online classes, one word would be fun. Or it was just like a magical wand for me, because I am very technical friendly, and internet is my weapon, I would say. So it was very easy for me, being an economics teacher, to make economics much more interesting with the help of this online stuff. So my children were, I can give you a remembrance, like my children were very much happy, to attend online classes, especially of economics, because what I show to them is like, you were very much aware in 12 there was Indian economy, and it's a very dry subject. So how to make it more interesting, we watch together different debate shows. Then we watch different series which were related to our Indian economic journeys. We watched China's development documentary. So we explored a lot of content online, and it was wonderful. Like it was just amplifying and expanding my capacity to continue and to teach my students very effectively and efficiently, plus with creativity, because obviously sitting in front of laptop for next 45 minutes and just listening to the other person is very boring. So what we do is, we had certain kind of projects also, like I asked them to prepare a YouTube video for a GD session, like group discussions. Then we prepared a podcast also. We together explored various YouTube channels which were not very much aware to us, and now this YouTube is like Google for economy. COVID has also contributed a lot for economics. The economy is being jumbled up and everything. So I am so happy that now if I ask my students know that which is your favorite subject, they just open-heartedly say economics. So yeah, online teaching is really very much fun.
I keep saying you're a cool teacher, and you just proved the point. If any teacher is listening to this episode, you must take notes.
Thank you, Davish. Saying this cool word makes me more young. I'm happy to hear it.
Great. Now, shifting the focus to problems.
Problem Pinpoint segment.
What do you think is the current condition of teachers in Indian education system? Or what makes it more thorny and less rosy?
Condition of teachers in our Indian education system is very double-sided, because one thing, this industry is dominated by females, and this system of our culture consider women not the sole breadwinner in the family. So what happens is that when more females are there and they step out of their houses and they go for jobs and everything, so they are not expected of good financial compensation. So that's not a popular culture in our country, which is a very, very, very prime problem or more thorny kind of thing in our Indian education system. Secondly, when we talk about this profession, especially in India, okay, it is considered to be a glorified babysitting because people think अच्छा इसके पास कुछ होगा नहीं चल ये टीचर बन जाती है ना इसको कुछ पढ़ना लिखना तो है नहीं सो that is a thought process which needs to be changed or considering this industry to be a very professional in terms that is another major problem in the society. Third, we do celebrate Teachers' Day every year. We do celebrate Women's Day every year. But now you can see the paradox situation of the same line which you have asked. Teachers' Day, Women's Day, both are very big way it has been celebrated in our country, or it's a country where women are very much praised. But the situation in terms of monetary benefits or in terms of respect, there's a lot of things to be done. Thirdly, the education system in our country is predominant by the private sector, and these private sectors are having good school, or we can say elite private schools, like a resort like feeling where the building is amazing, you have swimming pool, you have I don't know what to count for, everything you can get in a infrastructure of a school. But when it comes to getting compensation to the real agents of the education, that is the teachers, see again these private schools are to be run by great businessmen and they are doing business. So the channelizing of funds is not in a proper way. Like the amount of fees is very, very much high, but it is not being delivered correctly to the teachers. So that creates a gap and that creates a kind of misconnection between the teachers and the management and the students, which dissolved ultimately the true essence of education. And the outcome, very well, neither the teachers are happily devoting themselves for their work, nor the students are respecting the teachers in its true sense.
True, the struggle for equal pay is real. And when you say dominated by private sector, do you also mean to say that the teachers are exploited by the private schools?
See, exploitation is a very negative word. It's pure business. If you talk about education, the education sector should be ruled by an educationist because that particular person will understand what this industry demands and what this industry needs to supply. So, mismanagement of the ownership of this sector creates certain clashes which sometimes result into like the exploitation of the agents of our education, that is the teachers.
Alright, moving on to the next question. What is wrong with the relationship shared among students and teachers, and consecutively relationship of parents with teachers? For example, even you must have noticed it, when the result comes out to be good, the credit goes to the parent. But when it turns out to be bad, the teacher is to be blamed. Why is that?
Nice question. This is true, very much true. But the problem is people don't understand the real meaning of the relationship. If we talk about relationship of a teacher with student with parent, it's like a partnership, or we can say a shared responsibility kind of relationship. Giving your child to a teacher for the next 6-7 hours will not completely transform his life, but continuously and cooperative way of handling the child from the teacher's perspective and from the parent's perspective will definitely give you the 100% result. Now, I'm telling you now, this has been very much dominated by the environment in which parent, teacher and student is living. So, if we talk about primarily for a student and a teacher relationship, there should be strong communication, there should be respect between the two, there should be patient attitude between each other, and timely praise is necessary. But all these things are very much lacking because the amount of respect a student should give to the teacher depends the way that particular student's parents are behaving with the teacher. So it all depends on the home environment, how the child is being brought up, or how that parent has been taking the responsibility of teacher in a true sense. Generally, nowadays parents are working and Fortunately, everybody is working very nicely and getting handsome salaries. So people have this perspective that if I'm throwing or giving 1 lakh, 2 lakh per annum, so that means it's your responsibility. Like parents are giving that fees, they expect everything out of the teacher. One example which you quoted, like result is good, then parents are appreciated, result is bad, then the teachers are to be blamed. It's a normal phenomenon in our country, I would say. Like गलतियां हम में नहीं होती हैं, सामने वालों में होती है, ये हमको बताया जाता है बचपन से. थॉट प्रोवोकिंग थिंग्स चाहिए जिससे हम थोड़ा बहुत चेंज कर सकें रिलेशनशिप को एंड बेटरमेंट सोच सकें.
Points well made. And you rightly pointed out that to bring change is difficult, but that's what we are here for, isn't it? We are having these difficult conversations because conversations spark debates and debates lead to a constructive change. Point being, we can't just stop trying.
Exactly, Gavish, very much correct. We need constructive attitude, and I'm so very happy that you are taking up this platform as an opportunity to provoke the minds of our generation. Think on these things as well. Thank you so much, Gavish.
Thank you, ma'am, for the appreciation. Moving on to my next question, I would like to ask in quantitative terms, why is there a lack of teachers in India? UNESCO has said that India is facing a deficit of over 1 million teachers.
When we talk about the deficit of teachers in our country, as per the report of UNESCO, and even this new education policy also quoted the same data. See, we need to understand the strata of the data, because when we talk about the overall 1 million teachers, we are referring to those teachers who are there at elementary levels. Gradually, maximum of our population is from rural areas. So they enroll themselves at the early stage, but they withdraw their children at the later stage. So which, lower down the enrollment ratios when the hierarchy moves from lower to upper segment of schooling. And if you talk about the data in a more precise terms, there are much more teachers are available in surplus, and the students are not there. So as per this new education policy or the UNESCO report, the teacher-student ratio is like 1:30. So at lower levels, we are definitely having a crunch of teachers because maximum students enroll. But when we move to the upper segment, this ratio is underutilized. So that is the main technicalities that we need to think of. But yeah, there is a lack of teachers from the elementary perspective only. Okay. Then there are state variations, city variations, district variations, then region-wise variations also. Hopefully this new education policy can bring some good stuff for everyone.
Yes, you rightly pointed out to the problem and I agree with those points. But why is the question? Why do you think India just does not have sufficient teachers even if it's at the higher level?
Problem is, Kavish, the mindset. Because if you talk about, preference of career opportunities, people don't consider teaching as a career option. They take it as a side thing. Plan A, B, C is not working. Let's go on to plan D, and plan D is what? Teaching. Second thing, at the higher levels, a good amount of degrees are required. So if you talk about another field like engineering or doctors or lawyers, there is a 5-year or 4-year integrated course, right? But when you get into this teaching industry, when you move on to the higher levels, you need masters, you need a professional degree which is called B.Ed and PhD, NET or TET, CTET, which you have heard about. So if you talk about the data analytics, the CTET, which is Central Teachers Eligibility Test, out of the appearing population for this examination, only 2 to 3% have cleared the exam. So the quality of teachers is not very good, which will ultimately contribute towards the quantity of teachers at the higher levels. Thirdly, if a person is pursuing the higher level studies, he or she would prefer to go to the college level rather than the school level, because again, the financials matter. So at school level, the amount of compensation teachers are getting, nobody is interested to come into this particular area because of several reasons. There are a variety of reasons. A lot of paperwork is there, which is not there in the college level. Then the system is very complex. You need to maintain several records, which is not there at the college level. It's quite open, I would say, not free kind of thing, but yeah. when we compare the intensities of the aggregates, it's more at the school level than at the college level. Plus, you have observed that variety of schools have been opened up. Like in every corner of your area, there would be one small school present. So, if you compare the number of schools availability with the compare of the candidates getting into this particular industry, it's always a mismatch, which ultimately says that yes, there's a shortage of teachers in our country.
Indeed. I'm also impressed by the fact how you are explaining these terms very well because you teach economics. And you rightly talked about quality, which brings me to my next question. In qualitative terms, why do you think we lack good quality teachers in India? Because teaching is a skill. And you would agree, and let's face it, we have all had that bad, or so to say, unworthy teacher who we just couldn't bear studying with. A highly qualified person does not automatically count for a good teacher. So, what do you think about that?
Yes, yeah, I totally agree with this point, and we do need some qualitative teachers. Teaching is definitely a skill, but I consider teaching as a performing art. And when I say performing art, you need to be very much good in your presence of mind. See, teaching definitely the person should be knowledgeable about the concept that person is teaching. But apart from knowledgeable, the person should have the, I would say, skill to deal the disruptions in the classes, to create a good learning atmospheres, to build relationships with the students as well. Because if you are a scholar person and you have prepared everything on certain topic, and when you enter the class and you see that everybody is not interested to study, now what to do? Now what will your preparation work for? No. Talking in your generation language, teaching is just like making an Insta reel. You have 30 seconds, the limited time. You have ample amount of knowledge which is unlimited, and you have to grab that unlimited knowledge into 30 seconds, plus provided it should be creative and innovative, because you need to attract those minds. The children of today are very 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 much bored easily. They know much more than us. आप इस फील्ड में हो इस वजह से नहीं हो क्योंकि आप उस कॉन्सेप्ट को जानते हो. आपसे ज्यादा अच्छा कॉन्सेप्ट गूगल बता देगा, जो बच्चे ज्यादा यूज करते हैं. हर जगह से आपको इन्फॉर्मेशन मिल सकती है, बट उस इन्फॉर्मेशन को चैनलाइज कैसे करना है, क्रिएटिवली कैसे प्रेजेंट करना है, बच्चों को अपने से कनेक्ट कैसे करना है, दैट इज ऑल्सो वेरी मच इम्पोर्टेंट. सो देर आर सर्टन पीपल हु आर वेरी मच नॉलेजेबल, लेकिन बच्चों के पसंदीदा टीचर नहीं बन पाते. क्यों? क्योंकि वो कनेक्ट नहीं कर पाते. टू सम अप माय थिंग इज, टीचर बनने के लिए आपको दो सेट ऑफ स्किल्स की जरूरत होती है, विच इज कोर एंड सप्लीमेंट्री. सो कोर स्किल्स आपके हो जाते हैं सब्जेक्ट नॉलेज, एंड सप्लीमेंट्री स्किल्स इज हाउ डू यू डील विद दैट पर्टिकुलर पर्सन. और हर एक बच्चा एक दूसरे से अलग होता है. एक बच्चे को कुछ और रिक्वायरमेंट है उसी टॉपिक से, दूसरे बच्चे को कुछ और रिक्वायरमेंट है, तो आपको सारे रिक्वायरमेंट्स फुलफिल करने.
Loved every point. Beautifully explained by you. And I also think that if a person isn't really a good teacher, they should just leave without making it difficult for the student to study, because at the end of the day, if you are unable to teach, the student will have to take pain and study himself or herself.
Yeah, Gavish, this happened. This happened very much with the students across our country.
Response segment.
This brings us to our next segment, in which we take a response from the listeners and deliberate upon it. So I'll first read the response for us to discuss. So the question at hand was, what was your worst experience with a teacher? The responder has chosen to stay anonymous and says, a teacher saying to me in my 9th standard that just because I am not good at math, I should not call myself a part of the Kashmiri Pandit community, because Kashmiri Pandits are prodigies and particularly good at science and maths. This was particularly my worst experience with a teacher, because there were a lot of things going in my life in that year, and that statement just came as a blow to my confidence. I would also like to mention that teacher during my whole 9th standard insulted me for not being good at maths. So the episode has certainly taken a different turn, because till now we were talking about the teachers in the light of a victim. But what if the teacher turns out to be the oppressor? I mean, the response shows us how that teacher was wrong at so many levels. There's extreme stereotypical notions involved, and what if the teacher is at fault in some spaces? If a teacher is biased, or if he abuses the child, what do you think about that?
Being a teacher And coming from this teacher community, I have no shame to say that definitely teachers can be wrong at some point of time. We should always gracefully accept this truth.
But since you have been there and done that, what would be your advice to the students who are facing all such problems with their teachers?
I would advise to be more patient in that situation. हम किसी को भी अपनी इन टू आईज से जज नहीं कर सकते because there's always more to the other side of the story. We need to understand what are the different notions with that particular teacher is being brought up to, because टीचर्स में भी जनरेशन है गविश. आपको पता है, आई वॉज रीडिंग एन आर्टिकल जिसमें टीचर्स को भी ना सर्टन ग्रुप्स में क्लासिफाइड किया गया. लाइक वन ग्रुप इज लाइक ऑफ बूमर्स which belong to the era of 1946 to 1964. Then comes the generation X, which belongs to the era of 1965 to 1976. Then the millennials, which I am also part of, which is 1977 to 1999. And the latest one is Generation Z, which you have all heard of, Gen Z community, right? So आप different eras को belong करते हो और हर एक era के different outlooks थे, different societal rules थे. तो कुछ लोग अपडेट होते हैं, जैसे हमारे मोबाइल की एप्स अपडेट होती हैं, कुछ लोग नहीं अपडेट होते हैं. और आपने देखा जब आपके मोबाइल के कुछ एप्स अपडेट नहीं होते हैं, इट्स नॉट वेरी फ्रेंडली यूजर फॉर अस, राइट? तो इसीलिए इट्स बिकम वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट आप एक फ्लूइड की तरह बनो लाइफ में विद द पैसेज ऑफ टाइम. कुछ चीजें एक्सेप्ट करो, कुछ चीजें इग्नोर करो, कुछ चीजें सीखो, irrespective of the age factors.
Very well said.
Seeking Solutions segment.
Talking about the solutions, what reforms would you suggest to combat all these issues which we had just discussed? Should teachers be graded by students coupled with incentives? Can this step be taken up in schools? For example, when at the end of the year, the students get marks as per their performance. But what if we reverse the situation and the teacher who manages to score the highest gets incentives such as an increment or perhaps a bonus?
Yeah, there should be reforms to combat all such issues, and those reforms are very multidimensional. If we say grading by the students, that would be a premature grading, because the mindset of children when compared to an elderly person is not matched up to the level, because the amount of exposure an elderly person has seen in his or her life is not matched right now with the child. Then we talk about the incentives, that yes, definitely if a child score good marks, teachers should be given certain increment. And I would say I'm proud that I was a part of Sagar Public School in Bhopal, and this particular thing is being adopted there. So they also, benefit the teachers as well for their hard work, and that school is going amazing. My all wishes are with that school. Thirdly, so if we talk about reforms, the reforms should be academic plus life skill set based kind of reforms. Academically, definitely teachers should be very much well versed in their subject, and life skills is like understanding a person's psychology. Like more emphasis should also be given to understand the differences in the mindset, the thoughts of people coming from different communities, different backgrounds, which will help to create a bridge and can give easier options or easy way to create a good rapport between the teachers and the students. Rest, I think our government is also taking steps by bringing up this new education policy, but still right now it's a draft, and implementing it till the grassroots level is a big challenge for our country, because a lot of political interferences are there, political agendas are there. So let's see what reforms can be initiated. See, reforms लाना कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है, but reforms को लाकर उसको true sense में apply करना with the different agents of that particular industry is a big thought. तो I think it's a cooperative effort कि reforms कोई एक sector से नहीं आएगा या एक hierarchy से नहीं आएगा. Reforms सबकी तरफ से आने चाहिए. Reform students की तरफ से आने चाहिए to bring up the respect among them. Reform teachers की तरफ से आने चाहिए ताकि वो more enthusiastically and emotionally connect हो सके. Reforms parents की तरफ से भी आने चाहिए to understand the labor that the teacher is doing and understand the situation and the hard work. तो ये सबका collectively effort है, I guess.
Points well made. And yes, Saga Public School Gandhinagar is a great place to be at indeed. By the way, do you remember about that particular reform when you were still taking our economics classes and you shared this PDF on the WhatsApp group that the much awaited NEP had been announced? Well, we did an episode about that recently and we talked about how NEP was very student centric in its approach and somewhere or the other the emphasis on teachers had been missed out. So what do you think about that? Do you agree with the NEP or do you think that there could have been a completely different policy along the lines of a teacher's education policy?
See, Kavish, there is a segment of teachers' education also in new education policy, and it has also been focused growth perspectives from the teacher's angle as well. But yeah, we should not forget it's just a proposal right now. So the proposal is not considered to be 100% effective. Depending on circumstances, maybe gradually they will also increase much emphasis on the teachers as well. Like right now they have focused on compulsory CTET examinations. They have focused on NTA, which is National Testing Agency, wherein they'll check and then only they will recruit the teachers depending on their core and supplementary skills. They have also been focused to various levels of entrance examinations wherein the quality of the teachers need to be assessed, because ultimately quality matters, quantity does not. And this ever-changing needs of our society, we need some dynamic teachers also. I think one aspect which is still missing in new education policy is regarding the financials to the teachers. The compensation levels should also be increase so that it will give a boost to the other segments of the society, that yeah, a good amount of recruitment is there is a good possible future of education in our country, because nobody is being attracted right now. So that is one segment the government should also work on, because there's high level of discrimination in terms of compensations when it comes to government and private schools. The workload, you know much better that it's more in the private sectors. So yeah, I think the teachers should be compensated more. Then you see the effort of a teacher. See, obviously, so this is the main thing which I think needs to be worked on. Rest, with the passage of time, I think this education policy should be taken care by the educationists more, not the politicians, not from the administrative departments, more from the education department, because they will understand the grassroots level of difficulties this industry is facing.
Certainly. And I also think that there should be provisions to test the qualitative aspects of teachers, like we talked about earlier, to filter out persons who are there not to teach, but just for the sake of salary.
Yes, true, very much correct, Gavish. This is the main culture being followed in the government school. People are, just getting into this profession to earn handsome salaries and they're not doing up their efforts. So definitely your point is very much correct and that needs a consideration.
You must be familiar with the examples of wherein a teacher asks the students to mug the text in the book as is to score marks. Don't you think we should seek to change this? Because students need to cultivate a more non-conformist tendency in their mind so that they can critically read books instead of just mugging them up.
Yes, of course, Kavish. You are very much correct on this point as well. 21st century is not a रट्टाफिकेशन century now. आप देखो कितने इनोवेशंस हो रहे हैं, बट द प्रॉब्लम इज कि हम चैनलाइज नहीं कर रहे हैं उसको प्रॉपर सेंस में. क्रिटिकली बोलना, क्रिटिकली सोचना बहुत ज़रूरी है आज के टाइम पे. क्यों इतने क्लैशेस हो रहे हैं? बिकॉज हम सिर्फ उतना ही समझना चाहते हैं which we wanted to understand. Critical का मतलब होता है looking on both the sides, the positive as well as the negative, and then assess. तो yes, definitely books को सिर्फ mug up करना is not a solution, because fine, you are clearing your 12th examination with this 99 kind of percentage, but what happens when you enter into a college, or what happens when you enter into a practical life? So definitely there should not be mugging up of the topics. There should be critically reading books. We should learn to read between the lines. We should learn to see the hidden messages these lines are giving us, and we need to construct a critical outlook in our children.
Exactly.
Moral of the episode:
And since we're now heading towards the end of this episode, so ma'am, how would you sum this episode up in your last words as the moral of the episode?
ओह तो एंड आ गया, पता ही नहीं चला गविश. इट वाज जस्ट लाइक कि पुराने दिन वापस आ गए जब हम लोग क्लास में बैठ के इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ते थे एंड वी ऑल हैड दिस रैंडम डिस्कशंस एंड वी ऑल पार्टिसिपेटेड. सो आई रियली मिस दोज मोमेंट्स अ लॉट. मॉरल बोलो या लास्ट वर्ड्स बोलो या इनसाइट बोलो, आई कैन जस्ट ओनली से कि हम इस दुनिया को, इस वर्ल्ड को एक अच्छी दुनिया बना सकते हैं, ओवरवेल्म प्लेस बना सकते हैं इफ आवर यंग माइंड्स right to understand their needs and they accept and they understand the demands of the surroundings with a vitamin which is called as C, and C definitely stands for constructive outlook, जो हमने अपने पूरे एपिसोड में बार बार डिस्क्राइब करा है. बिकॉज अगर लाइफ में आपको नॉलेज चाहिए है तो आप रोज कुछ ना कुछ अपने माइंड को दो, लेकिन अगर आपको लाइफ में विजडम चाहिए है तो कुछ नेगेटिव चीजों को डिलीट करो अपने दिमाग से और अच्छी चीजों को कुछ ना कुछ एक्सेप्ट करो. जैसे आज पूरे दिन भर में सबसे अच्छी चीज मेरे साथ ये हुई है कि आई हैड अ वंडरफुल एंड इंटेलेक्चुअल डिस्कशन विद यू गविश. थैंक यू सो मच.
Yes, the nostalgia is so evident, and I think towards the end it would be safe to say that only education can save education.
Supplementary segment.
As the last segment of our show, we have the supplementary segment. So for Richa ma'am and those who do not know, here we give something back to our listeners to remember us by. It can be anything of value, an article, a movie, a song, a video. And for this episode, I would like to suggest you to watch a movie called The Dead Poets Society. I'm sure most of you would have watched it because this one is a popular one. And for those who have not watched it, it is extremely recommended to do so because in this movie, John Keating, a progressive English teacher, tries to encourage his students to break free from the norm, go against the status quo, and live life unapologetically. He uses unorthodox methods to reach out to his students who face enormous pressures from their parents and the school. With Keating's help, students learn to break out of their shells, pursue their dreams, and seize the day. Thank you so much, Richa ma'am, for taking out time and coming here to discuss about such contentious topic. I hope we did not scare anyone away from the profession of teaching. Alright, so if you think we missed a point, or if you would want to give your responses for the response segment, or if you would want simply to stay connected, you can reach out to me on Instagram. I am called Gavish Raptor with @GAVISH_RAPTOR. Ma'am, how can listeners reach out to you?
You can reach out to me by calling Richie Rich. So, if you're talking about social media and everything, I'm there on Instagram with Richie Rich. And if you want to reach out to me, you can have my Gmail IDs. You can mail me out. And और क्या बोलूँ, गविश है ना, गविश मेरे पास पहुँचना है तो भाई गविश से कांटेक्ट कर लो because he is more connected with me on all the segments जहाँ से हम कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं. एंड रैप्टर से याद आया गविश, रिमेम्बर मैंने आपसे क्लास में पूछा था गविश व्हाट इज दिस रैप्टर मींस, इज दिस योर सरनेम? तो मुझे याद आ रहा था व्हाइल द मोमेंट यू वर सेइंग ना यू कैन रीच मी आउट ऑन गविश रैप्टर. सो अच्छे मोमेंट्स थे ना.
Sweet memories, ma'am.
Thank you Gavish for inviting me for a chat. It was wonderful.
Thank you ma'am for being a part. And thank you so much everyone for tuning in today. And don't forget to tune in next week for a fresh episode.
You were listening to the Skeptical Student Show by Gavish Raptor, created as a part of Podcast Lab by India Film Project in association with Anchor by Spotify.